Don't pucker your lips, you'll get smoker's mouth. Everyone listening, if you drink from a cup with a straw, don't pucker your lips or you'll get lines like a smoker.
You're supposed to drink out of the side of your mouth, which just looks absolutely ridiculous.
It looks like you've had a stroke.
I may as well just not use a straw if that's the way I'm supposed to be using a straw.
Go for a sippy cup instead.
I'll just drink out of a cup like a normal person, I guess.
Please do. Hello, everybody. This is the Ride Home Podcast. My name is Abby.
Hey guys, I'm Caitlin.
So tonight we are back at the theater and we just left A24's newest horror whodunit called Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. And I think we can both agree that it was night and day better than They Them.
Significantly better than They Them.
So the last horror movie that we reviewed, They Them, which was on Peacock. If you haven't listened to our episode, I think it's our lowest rated movie that we've podcasted about
Definitely.
so far. So go back to that episode if you want just like a fun time where we just absolutely shit on a movie.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah. But going back to Bodies, 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 coming out of the theater, what are your thoughts?
I'm going to share my thoughts.
Okay.
But I have other thoughts
About
a person that was in the movie theater.
Oh, we're going back to inside the theater.
Yeah. So we're gonna take it back a second and step back before Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
Are we talking?
I hate that we have to say it 3 times. Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
Bodies,
Like
bodies, bodies.
Bloody Mary.
Yeah.
Before the movie started, a man entered the theater
With the biggest hair I've ever seen.
with the largest head and the largest head of hair
Correct.
on a man either of us have ever seen.
I literally pulled up a picture of Toad from Mario and I held it up behind his head. And
It was pretty accurate.
it was exactly
He
spot on.
sat directly in front of Abby.
Which there were multiple seats. This theater was like
There were like 6
12
people total.
Yeah.
Not even 12.
Not even 12.
No.
2 people in the back, 3, us, him, and like 2 people in front of him.
Yeah, so like maybe 8 people total.
And he sat in the seat directly in front of me, which, guys, movie theater etiquette, you do not sit in front of somebody unless you have to, because people put their feet up.
Yes.
Especially in movies where there's not a lot of people there and you're just relaxing together. Right in front of me.
Directly in front of you. So it was already off to a bad start. Then he pulled out his phone. Which I don't want to offend anyone, but it was an Android.
You can offend
so
an Android user.
I'm going to shit on it for a second because he pulled it out and I was
would
like,
have an
I thought the same
Android
thing.
too.
I was like, of course he has an Android.
Yep.
So he pulls out his little Android and he pulls up his little apps and he pulls up Twitter. And I was like, oh, he's checking Twitter before the movie. No, he wasn't. He sent out a little tweet about each individual trailer that played on the screen.
He was live tweeting the trailer.
He was live tweeting the trailers. I'm probably one of the nosiest people you will ever meet.
Literally, if we're sitting at home and I get a text, she'll lean over across the couch to read. And like, luckily, like I don't have anything to hide from her,
right.
So I just let her read every
it's
single
like,
text.
Who's texting us?
Yeah.
On your phone.
My texts are your texts.
Yeah. Anywho, so
his texts were your texts.
His tweets were my tweets.
Yes.
It's my personal property, actually. So
Caitlin owns
it's my
internet.
Intellectual property. So
Yeah.
I was reading all of his tweets. I couldn't read all of them. But the first one said, the Don't Worry Darling trailers get more intense with each successive one.
Wow.
That one I read verbatim. So that's exactly what he sent out into the internet.
And the best part was that after he texted it, he kept refreshing the page.
He held it up.
He
held up his tweet to see if anyone liked or retweeted it. Okay. The next one I could not read verbatim.
Okay.
But it was about the movie Bros.
The gay movie
with
rom-com.
Billy Eichner. And it was something to the effect of it could be good or it could be bad.
Okay.
So he's not sure how
At
he
least
feels.
it wasn't homophobic.
Wasn't homophobic. he could go either way.
Which is really funny because when Bros plays, we live 30 minutes outside of Charleston. So we're we're not in the country. We live
it's suburbs.
It's suburbs of Charleston, basically. Yeah. But there's a more conservative base out here.
Yeah,
and
it's a less progressive area.
Every single time Bros plays in our theaters, there's always people scoffing in the back.
I'll never see that.
And there was two different sets of people that were sitting behind us, and one was two teenage boys, and they're like, what? And then there was a couple behind us, and they were like, what?
Because they were straight, and it calls out straight people a lot in the trailer, and they were very offended.
I know.
Okay, back to the tweets.
Yes.
The next tweet, apparently there's going to be a prequel to the movie X.
Yes. I was so excited.
Which Abby goes, oh, it's the prequel. And he tweets, okay, it's the spin-off of X, Pearl.
Did he hear me and tweet that?
Hear you, but it's not a spin-off, though.
Okay.
It's a prequel. He got it wrong.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a spin-off, but...
Yeah, so if you guys have listened to our, intro episode where we reviewed all the movies we had seen before we started the podcast, X was one of our favorites of this year so far. And they are doing an origin story of the killer from X. And I'm super excited about it.
I'm really excited
about
X. He seemed semi-excited about it. I don't know. It's hard to say about the tweet. It just said, okay, it's a spin-off.
I like that that he put Pearl almost like he was signing it Pearl. Oh, it's a spinoff. Love Pearl.
Yeah, I guess that was his way of announcing what movie he was talking about. But my favorite and most impressive tweet of all, his final tweet, his final live tweet in the theaters before he put his little android away, was about the Regal Pepsi commercial.
What did he have to say about that?
I couldn't see what it said, but he tweeted about the Pepsi commercial because all I could see was Pepsi commercial. But he was saying something about it.
He should have tweeted about the Regal Unlimited commercial where they're like, do you want to watch movies?
I see
all the movies.
We had such a little show.
So we had that song and dance at the beginning, and then the best part was that he laughed through the entire movie at every single part that wasn't funny. And his laugh was like Winnie the Pooh. He would go, and then he sprinted out of the theater right, it was at the climax of the
ending,
movie.
Yeah.
Sprinted. I guess he had to pee. Sprinted back into the theater.
He was a busy man. He had tweets to send.
Maybe he left to tweet.
Bathroom breaks to take.
But no, I know he was going to the bathroom because when he came back into the theater, he was actively still putting his pants together.
Oh, no.
And then when he came back up into the seat, he grabs his drink. And when you take a drink of something when you're not ready yet and you're still breathing and you breathe it in?
Yes.
He took a sip and just went... And then after he finished coughing, he put the drink down and he took a breather or whatever. And then he went to take another sip of the drink and then audibly burped.
Yes, he did burp very loudly. Because it was almost like when you swallow air too fast and you have to burp.
He was sucking in air from running back from the bathroom.
Sir, you shouldn't have left. The movie had 10 minutes left.
Honestly, the whole podcast could just be reviewing this man's movie-going experience. Yeah. Anyways,
now
back to the actual
point of this podcast.
The point of the podcast where we review movies. Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Coming out of the theater, Caitlin, now that we're out of the theater.
Okay, yeah.
What did you think?
Okay, so I really enjoyed this movie.
Okay.
I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought it had some really good scares. I wouldn't say it was one of my favorite movies of the year.
Right.
But I really liked it.
You really liked it? So I liked it, and I'll just leave it at that. I think
You just liked it.
It's just a liked. I am a little wishy-washy on some things.
When aren't you?
Sometimes I like really like stuff though.
Okay.
I thought that there were some really good parts. Like you said, I think there were some decent scares. There were some really funny parts, funny scenes.
I thought the comedy was great.
And I think where it was flawed a little bit was just on like the execution of certain things, the pacing, and also like a little bit of like casting and like acting issues.
Okay.
So before we dive into our like individual critiques more, I'm just going to give a very generic plot.
Okay.
Which is, it's a group of college-aged people who gather at a very wealthy friend's house who happens to be Pete Davidson.
Yes, of course.
But they gather at their friend's house to ride out a hurricane together. And Amandla Stenberg, she shows up with her girlfriend B, and they aren't really welcome, we'll say, because no one was expecting her to show up because she's kind of the problematic friend.
Right.
So she had just been in rehab and quote unquote, you know, caused all of these issues before in their friend group, and everybody's like a little weird that she's there.
Right.
But they loosen up and they start partying together, and they end up playing this game called Bodies, 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 which is like a mix of, if you play video games, it's like Among Us. And I know you mentioned Mafia.
Yes. It was also like if we played like Mafia and like PE in elementary school or whatever.
So it's like there's a killer in the room. It's almost like a murder mystery too.
Sure.
Like it's there's a killer in the room. They turn the lights off. Whoever gets tapped on the back is dead, quote unquote, and then they have to figure out who did it. Well, of course, somebody actually ends up dead. Right. And it turns into a very big slasher whodunit, basically. The highlight of the movie and the downside, for me, was the cast.
Yeah.
Because there were a few cast members that were really, really good and authentic and funny. And then there were some that, like, I felt like I was watching, like, an episode of Pretty Little Liars.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which, like, is fine if I'm watching a TV show, but, like, in, like, a movie.
Also, it's A24.
I know.
Like,
I was expecting a little bit
could
more.
do better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do see what you mean about that.
Yeah.
Also, was just briefly, since we're talking about the cast, whoever the man was that played Greg.
Lee Pace.
Yeah. Who's he?
I only know him from Lord of the Rings.
Okay, well,
he plays an
hot.
Elf. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he's hot here.
The internet fondly refers to him as Daddy Lee.
Okay, well, yeah, I could see why. He's hot. He was a little zaddy in this movie.
He's great. I mean, he's beautiful in Lord of the Rings, too.
Yeah.
But I thought that, I know that he's a kind of a polarizing figure, but we both like Pete Davidson. We both think he's really funny.
Yeah.
So his scenes were really funny. Unfortunately, I thought that Amanda, who was kind of supposed to be the lead, she was giving me nothing.
I think you would probably categorize her in the Pretty Little Liars.
Easily.
Which is weird being the lead, that she would kind of not stand out more.
There was no like authenticity to her character.
Yeah, speaking of which, she was supposed to have been like an addict, like you mentioned, and that came out of rehab, and like that didn't translate at all in her performance.
No.
Like she didn't give us this person is an addict.
No. And it was interesting because there were multiple characters who kind of were like nothing characters. Like they were just kind of there. Like there's another girl named Jordan who, like, sure, she has like a little bit of it, like a chip on her shoulder, like an attitude, but like
we don't really know why.
We don't know why.
Right.
Amandla, I guess her name, what is her name?
Stenberg.
Sophie. No, I was her character's name was Sophie.
Yes, Sophie.
She brings her girlfriend, obviously, to this function, and her girlfriend's name is B. She's Russian for some reason, and there's no reason for her to be Russian. It doesn't play into the plot at all. It doesn't add anything.
No. And
she's just awkward through the whole thing.
Yeah, and a little weird.
I think she was trying to play which like okay, I will give her this. At the beginning when they first get there, she did play that like being at the function and not knowing anybody and like having to play along and like the awkward smiles and like trying to force yourself into situations that like you don't feel welcome in. She did really well like at the beginning, but then she
did something.
She became so like introverted and weird that it was like uncomfortable like seeing her on camera, and again for like no real reason. Like it didn't move the plot forward for her to be that weird.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. That was odd.
There was, however, a character that absolutely carried the movie, and I think you'll agree with me.
On her whole back. She carried the entire movie on her back.
I don't know the actress's name.
It is Rachel Sennott or Sennott.
Okay.
I'm not sure how you pronounce it.
She plays Alice, who is basically like Karen in Mean Girls.
Yeah,
like
it
the
is
airhead.
Like, yeah, it is like Karen in Mean Girls.
And she really just had every single funny line. The delivery was perfect, but she also gave the best truly genuine terror. Like I am afraid right now. And I think the number one thing about her character was that one of the biggest things within the screenplay, which this is another thing that I'm wishy-washy about, was that it really leans heavily into making fun of Gen Z and Gen Z culture, TikTok, the way they speak, even like making fun of how politically correct Gen Z is.
Yep.
And I thought that the cast as a whole really struggled with making that content funny, but Alice didn't. She absolutely made all of those jokes funny and made it bearable.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because I feel like if Alice wasn't there and if her character and her performance wasn't that good, I'm not going to lie, I feel like it would have been cringe.
It would have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Now that you say that, it's really hard to imagine that movie without her.
Yeah. And then my final, I guess, critique before we can go into like what we liked about the movie was that I thought the pacing was a little off tempo. I think so much of the movie was them trying to figure things out and confronting each other. And because they didn't let us get to know the characters more at the beginning of the movie, they were doing too much explaining throughout.
Yeah.
Where like we would get to like somebody would die and then everybody would like unpack a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And then like the next person would die and then they would unpack a bunch of stuff. Instead of what they could have done was building their friend group as a character right when they got there.
Yeah. Which that was a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Because that felt like a particularly long scene for nothing to have happened in.
Yes.
Like when what's her name, Sophie and Bee, when they arrive at the house,
the pool,
the whole scene is just about how she didn't respond to the group chat and why did she come. And like it was a long scene, and like you said, I think that would have been a perfect time for them to use that scene to be like, well, this is Alice and this is why she doesn't, you know, and like everyone kind of just gets like explained a little bit, and then we kind of get to know the dynamic a little bit better. And you're right, we didn't ever get like a group dynamic.
No,
it was always just like, well, they're dead, so now we're going to talk about why they're dead. And
the issue with that is that as you kill off a character, you lose that person from the dynamic. And so we never fully got to see their friend group as the main character, which kind of it was.
Right.
You could technically call Amanda the main character, but I don't really think so.
Not really.
Or maybe Bee,
I don't know.
The Russian girl.
It's kind of.
But really, if you think about it, it's their friend group. It's, you know, they all talk shit behind each other's backs. They all have beef with each other. They all have issues with each other. And you learn that stuff through the movie. But I really do think that if they had given us a little bit more setup at the beginning, A, we could have gotten to know the characters better, and B, the pacing of the second half of the movie could have been more horror and more terror and more kills and more excitement and more like hiding in a closet, hiding, that type of excitement that you get from a horror movie.
Missed opportunity for sure with the
I'm sorry, am I making you like it less?
A little bit. Yeah, because I think we can all say that I tend to be
a little more forgiving
of a forgiving, optimistic person.
Right,
and like I come out of a movie and I'm like, I loved it. And then you say stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, that did suck.
I will say that there were some massive positives throughout where, they do really, like, they truly do make fun of Gen Z culture.
Yes.
There is a scene at the end where the characters that are left alive are basically just talking in a giant PC conversation while there's like dead bodies around them.
Yes.
It's very funny. I also really enjoyed kind of the your friends aren't really your friends dynamic.
Yes.
There's a girl that has a podcast, but like another character secretly hates the podcast. And it's like this whole big thing that they don't like their podcast. And like stuff like that was absolutely
really
hilarious.
Yeah.
And I also really liked the kind of natural plot point that they were stuck in a hurricane because it made for really easy explanation for why they couldn't call anybody,
right,
or like why the lights were out and all that, because sometimes in movies it's they're like, oh, no reception, or oh, I didn't plug in the phone, or and
you're like, my phone died.
They have to make like a point to address why you can't communicate. And I liked that we just got a really natural, like right away. They're like, there's a hurricane. We're waiting it out. The power goes out. Cell service is gone.
Yeah.
And we didn't have to address that over and over and over again.
Right. It was just like, that's it. Like your phones are fucked and you can't see. Here. So I think part of the reason why I liked it so much is that it felt very much like a little teen movie, which I love. A teen movie, I love like a coming of age. This was not a coming of age, obviously, but it was just like a bunch of kids basically like playing a game, and I thought that was fun, like because we've all been a teenager or a person in college playing a game, whether it's a Ouija board or
it actually did bring me back to like our friends in college at like our college house. We would play hide and go seek a lot.
Yeah. It wasn't super scary. I'm the kind of a person who I either have to turn the volume down or plug my ears when we see scary movies, like legit scary movies, because I have like sensory issues, I guess. And like I get super nervous about the idea of someone popping out or there being a loud sound. And this was not one of those movies, because I found myself like there was a scene kind of at the beginning where I was plugging my ears and then it happened, and then I was just kind of like, okay, I don't think this is a plugging my ears movie.
This is right down the middle. Yeah. Very palatable.
Very much so.
And I think in general, I hate to say it, like I don't want to be ageist here.
Oh boy. Okay.
But unless you are on TikTok or are young millennial and Gen Z, you might not get any of the humor in this movie.
True.
So I will say that so much of the movie is about the way they communicate with each other, their culture, what they like, and also making fun of it. I don't really think that you're going to find it funny if you're not like fully aware of what it is.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
I mean, that's kind of the whole thing. So.
Like I truly don't think a 60-year-old person would enjoy that movie.
Not at all.
Maybe not even like a 40-year-old person. And we're not too far off from that.
No, you're not. Just be careful.
Overall, I think I'll give it a medium.
I don't say it's a medium for me as
I don't think I hated it enough to give it a small. I like it enough to give it a medium for sure. And it held my attention, which is great.
Yeah,
like
mine too.
At no point, even with the pacing issues, did I say like, oh my God, when is this movie gonna end? No. I think it's worth a watch. I don't think you have to run to a theater.
No.
It will be a great streaming movie.
Yeah, just wait. You can watch it at home.
Yeah.
Just a little old medium popcorn.
Just a little old medium.
Which, speaking of medium popcorns, we had a free medium popcorn tonight.
And a free nacho and a free drink.
Listen,
Get Regal Unlimited, guys.
if you go to the movies even twice a month,
Yeah.
it's worth
probably
it,
worth it.
and it'll pay off. Because
we don't pay for any of our snacks.
We don't. And we'll not be paying for snacks for literal months.
And guys, we go like maybe 5 times a month.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
It's so worth it.
But here's the question, though. We gave this movie a medium popcorn. What do you think Android Toad gave it? We didn't see his tweets.
He seemed to really enjoy it. To be honest, he was doing his little Mickey Mouse laugh the whole time.
Oh yeah, it's not Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah,
it's Mickey Mouse.
Mickey Mouse.
Wow, I messed that up.
Oh, but Winnie the Pooh does do something similar though. He does like a hoo-hoo. Like a little. Isn't that his?
Yeah.
But Mickey Mouse does the one you were doing.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I think he might give it a large.
I think he gave it a large popcorn.
He's got to have.
Did you see his handle?
No, I didn't.
Damn it.
I really wanted to see his handle.
I would have followed him.
I would have followed him too, because I feel like he's got perhaps a YouTube channel,
A letterbox.
or a letterboxd, or some sort of a little movie.
Maybe he has a podcast. What if he could be a guest?
Oh my God.
What if we had asked him to be a guest on our podcast? He would have been so excited. Ew, but then he would have had to be in our car.
Would he have been excited, or would he have been offended?
I feel like
I don't know. I could be misjudging him. I don't judge a book by their toad head, I guess. But
yeah.
we are. We will be doing that.
All right, everybody. That does it for us. Next week, we have a very exciting episode coming up. Caitlin has never seen E.T.
This is true.
Which
I've
is
never seen
crazy.
E.T.
Also, someone I went to college with was genuinely afraid of E.T.
Oh.
She thought E.T. was just the scariest, like the actual character,
creature
of E.T.
himself.
Yes, she would go like, "Ow!"
Oh my God.
So Danielle, if you're listening, I doubt you are, but if you are listening to this podcast, I will never forget your fear of E.T.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to my first viewing. We're going to actually see it in theaters.
Yeah, it's playing in our theaters, and so we're going to see it on the big screen, and we're going to use my free popcorn, my free nacho, and my free drink. Because we never pay for anything.
Nope.
All right, guys. Well, I hope you guys have a great week and enjoy your weekends. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us on the ride home.